I'll be talking about Gibbs suppression in nuclear collisions as a unique signal of quark-gluon plasma formation. Different states of matter, their defining features and transitions among them have always been an interesting problem in physics. Strongly interacting matter opens up a new chapter for such studies. At sufficiently high temperature and/or densities, nuclear matter undergoes a phase transition from a hadronic phase where the dominating degrees of freedoms are hadrons to a partonic phase where the dominating degrees of freedoms are quarks and gluons, popularly known as quark-gluon plasma. Relativistic heavy ion collisions enable us to produce such hot and dense nuclear matter in the laboratory. However, the transient lifetime of the plasma renders their identification very difficult, and this drives one to find out unambiguous and experimentally viable probes of relativistic heavy ion collisions that can unambiguously tell us about the QGP production in the laboratory. Of course, this has to be the probes are to be designed from the final state particles which come out of the collisions and detected in the detectors. Gibbs suppression in avian collision has considered as a promising probe for QGP production. The original idea was by Matsui and Sas, who in their first paper in 1986, in a PLB paper, prior to any experimental observation, suggested that if high-energy heavy ion collisions lead to the formation of quark-gluon plasma, then Gibbs, which are a bound state of a charm and anti-charm quark, will get dissociated due to the device screening inside a plasma. As a result, the yield of Gibbs productions will be smaller in nucleus-nucleus collision for when QGP is produced compared to a case when there is no QGP, and one would see in the presence of QGP, one would see a reduction in the measured yield of Gibbs production, which is popularly known as Gibbs suppression. So this can be understood from this cartoon in more detail. Suppose we implant some CC bar bound state inside a plasma. Now in plasma, they are in a quark-gluon plasma. In a quark-gluon plasma, there are many free quarks and gluons which carry the colored charges, and this would induce color screening, which in turn dissociate the bound state, CC bar bound state, when the binding radius of that bound state will be equal to the in-medium device screening radius. Now the in-medium device screening radius is a function of the temperature of the medium. So if different CC bar states, on the other hand, have different sizes and also different binding energies. So when different CC bar bound states are implanted inside a plasma, the loosely bound states will dissociate first, and as the temperature of the plasma increase, the more strongly bound states will be eventually get dissociated. Owing to different binding energies, different states have different dissociation thresholds, and all the states have a characteristic threshold dissociation temperature. This is the temperature at which the in-medium device screening radius becomes equal to the characteristic bound state of that CC bar state. As a result, the CC bar states or the Charmonius states can serve as a thermometer for the quark-gluon plasma. So now we need to understand the dynamics of Gibbs production in nuclear collisions. In Gibbs production in proton-proton collisions, the elementary collisions is believed to be a factorizable two-step process. The first step is the production of a CC bar pairs, which can be accurately described by perturbative QCD. Whereas the next stage is the formation of the physical resonances like Gibbs or Psi prime. This stage is non-perturbative in nature, and there are different and cannot be explained from first principle theoretical calculations. There are different non-perturbative models like color singlet model, color octet model, or NRQCD, which describe this non-perturbative stage. And the Gibbs production in PP collision sets the baseline for the product to measure the Gibbs production or to characterize the production in nuclear collisions. In proton-nucleus collision, Gibbs production is influenced due to the production of the target nucleus. These collisions thus provide a tool to probe the effect of confined matter on Gibbs production. So the measurements till date unanimously reported that at fixed collision energy, the rate of Charmonia or Gibbs production per target nucleon decreases with increasing the mass of the target. Because with increasing the target mass, you have more and more nucleons. So the observed reduction is due to interplay of variety of physical processes, or nuclear effects, which are collectively known as cold nuclear matter effect, and the reduction is known as cold nuclear matter suppression in Gibbsite production. Now, if you come to the Gibbsite production in nucleus-nucleus collision, then the suppression pattern should exhibit a hierarchical structure. This is because of the following fact: in nuclear collisions, not all Gibbsites are directly produced from an evolving Cesibar state. 60% of the Gibbsites are directly produced, while the 30% of them come from the decay of the excited states like Chi-C, or 10% come from another decay of another excited state called Chi prime. Chi-C is the 1p state and Chi prime is the 2s state. As a result, and since different states have different dissociation temperature because of their different binding energies, as a result, the Gibbsite survival probability should exhibit a hierarchical or stepwise structure as a function of the evolving temperature of the medium. This is known as sequential melting, and this can be exhibited when one looks at the Gibbsite production yield at various centralities or at various center of mass energies for a given nucleus-nucleus collision. Another important feature for Gibbsite production, particularly at higher energies, is their regeneration or recombination. This is another source of Gibbsite production in addition to their primordial production from an evolving Cesibar pair. At high energies like LHC, a large number of the Cesibar pairs are initially produced, and a large number of Cesibar pairs are initially produced. Some of them will form Gibbsite, which will get dissociated because of the Debye streaming. Now, after they all get dissociated, during the hadronization, some of these Cesibar pairs may join at random and again produce some Gibbsite. This is known as recombination or regeneration in Gibbsite production. This theoretical calculation says that this would lead to this is a statistical process, and the statistical recombination process would lead to an increase in yield of Gibbsite production in high energy collisions at high energies like at LHC. So how do we understand the Gibbsite data in experiments? So to understand the Gibbsite data in experiment, we need an unsuppressed reference for which we use the PP collisions. But we also need to understand the suppression, which is because of the non-QGP effects. So the proton nucleus collisions give us a tool to understand the Gibbsite production due to the cold nuclear matter effects. And if the Gibbsite suppression observed in nuclear collisions is just a smooth extrapolation of the proton nucleus collision, then this is not very important. This is not genuinely QGP effect. If we can see a sudden onset or increase in the suppression pattern on top of the cold nuclear matter suppression, that is genuinely interesting and might be due to the coagulant plasma production. So what is the experimental status as of now? So at SPS, superproton synchrotron at CERN, Gibbsite production in nuclear collision has been measured by a series of experiments like Na38, Na50 and Na60. So the first evidence of anomalous suppression at SPS was observed by Na50 experiment in 158 GeV lead-lead collisions in the most central beams. For other systems, the data were found to be compatible with cold nuclear matter suppression, and this additional suppression which has been observed at SPS for most central lead-lead collision, these data are found to be explained by a variety of models with and without the QGP, invoking the QGP scenario. At RHIC, relativistic heavy ion collider at BNL, Gibbsite production has been measured by mostly by STAR and Phoenix experiment in 200 GeV gold-gold collision, and more suppression is observed at forward rapidity than at mid rapidity, a feature that can only be explained when you take recombination scenario into account. At Large Hadron Collider at LHC, Gibbsite production has been measured at 2.76 TeV lead-lead and 5.02 TeV lead-lead collision, and it has been seen that at LHC, Gibbsite suppression is smaller or less compared to that at RHIC. This is little surprising because at LHC, the energy, the center of mass energy, and hence the energy density of the produced medium is much larger than compared to RHIC. However, such a scenario can only be explained when one takes into account the recombination process into operation. So finally, Gibbsite production, these are the ongoing experiments or the past experiments where the Gibbsite production has been measured. In future FAIR facility for antiproton and ion research at GSI Darmstadt, ZFI production will be measured in 30 GeV proton nucleus and 10 GeV nucleus, the gold 30 GeV proton nucleus collision and 10 GeV gold collision in compressed baryonic matter CBM experiment. At FAIR, owing to the much lower center of mass energies, slow ZFI mesons are produced, which basically means these resonances will be fully developed when they propagate through the nuclear matter. Thus, ZFI production in proton nucleus collisions at FAIR energies gives a golden opportunity to measure the ZFI nucleon interaction, which has never been measured earlier because all the available world data measures the CC bar precursor, a precursor CC bar pre-resonance state and nucleus interaction. And there are different theoretical models which basically give different values of ZFI nucleon interaction cross section. So thus, the data which will be collected at FAIR gives us an opportunity to basically constrain the theoretical models. So this is basically exhibited by the right panel in the figure, where we have plotted the RPA, the ZFI transparency ratio, as a function of the Feynman scaling variable, and it sees that different theoretical models give visibly different pattern of this RPA. So with this, I come to my summary that ZFI suppression has long been considered as a prominent signature for QGP formation, and a very careful study and a corresponding theoretical effort are indeed necessary to understand the cold nuclear matter effects. And once we understand the cold nuclear matter effects perfectly, we can basically interpret the data and find the genuine hot medium or QGP effects. And LHC, there is a clear signal of regeneration, which has been seen by the centrality and PT dependent RAA, the nuclear modification factor, and non-zero V2, which we do not discuss here because of the lack of time. At lower energies like at FAIR, there is no recombination because there are very less number of CC bar pairs. So they would give us the clean signature of ZFI formation. And because of the lower energy or smaller velocity, the real size ZFI mesons are produced inside the nuclear medium at FAIR. This gives them an opportunity to pin down the ZFI nuclear interaction cross section and thus to differentiate different theoretical models. ZFI production at FAIR will also give us opportunity to investigate the subthreshold production of ZFI, which is not being discussed here. And finally, all this needs a high precision data. So the field is still active and exciting. Thank you very much.